Marhaba and welcome to this week's edition of Match Point. Marhaba is the Arabic word for welcome and is the official name of the official match ball for the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations in Equatorial Guinea this coming January. We have the official match ball here in studio with us a week before it's set to be unveiled at the official draw for the competition next week in Malabo. We have it here for the first time on Match Point, CCTV's new sports show that brings you sports news, action, features and highlights from all over the continent. I'm Mahia Mutwa is what you can expect over the next half hour. Death of Australian cricketer Phil Hughes opens up debate on the sport's safety.
It can be done. It can be done. We, as South Africans, we just got to support the boys.
Former Bafana captain optimistic of AFCON success. And ex-Congolese international keen on nurturing young talent. We begin in cricket, where the sport is this week in mourning following the death of Australian batsman Philip Hughes. Hughes died on Thursday after a ball struck him on the neck during play in a domestic match 2 days earlier. Although doctors described it as a freak accident, the tragedy has called into question the safety of the game. Our reporter Dan Williams takes up the story in Johannesburg.
Preparing for the new campaign. The Highveld Lions have high hopes of winning South Africa's domestic T20 title. But the mood amongst the players has altered in recent days. The tragic death of Australian Phil Hughes, who died after he was struck on the head by a ball, has put doubt in the minds of even some of the most fearless of batsmen.
You know, the helmet and the advent of all these other guards have sort of got the confidence levels up there. So this probably, you know, just pegs it back a little bit. We know the risks are there, but this just sort of, you know, puts something back in the back of your mind as well. That, you know, with all these guards, there's definitely, you know, it's a dangerous sport. You know, you got to look after yourself.
As the cricket world comes to terms with the death of Phil Hughes, so come new calls to improve safety in the sport, especially for the younger players. One change that is likely, further improvements in protective headwear.
I think with this, precaution measures, you know, will actually take place, you know, to actually try and prevent this from happening again. And I'm sure they will get on it, you know, ASAP, as soon as possible. For kids coming up as well, you know, protect, you know, each and every one.
That view is echoed by Highveld Lions coach Jeffrey Toyana. One area he feels needs focus is the use of the bouncer, the delivery that is aimed at the batsman's head.
Those powers that be, you know, if they can come, maybe they can control the whole situation, because it is dangerous. Even if it means maybe, you know, in those tail-enders you're not allowed to bowl, you know, like any bouncers or whatever the case is. But we have to do something about it.
Any further safety measure that protects the brain would be welcomed by Headway, a charity dedicated to supporting survivors of brain injury.
People don't get it. They don't get the impact brain injury has. They don't get the impact that it's for life. Brain injury is for life. Once you've had a brain injury, it's with you. And when you look at this in the context of sport, the two are just so far apart. Sport's about fun. Brain injury is hectic stuff. And I think if people have more awareness, we are becoming more health aware. We worry about what we eat, will it cause cancer? We wear our seatbelts, we wear our cycling helmets. So I think this trend needs to now start extending into schools and into professional sport.
There's no doubt that world cricket is in mourning, but only time will tell whether the tragic events of the last week will bring about changes to the game. Dan Williams, CCTV, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Now, Hughes is the second player in 2 years to sustain a fatal blow. We take a look now at some of the notable players that passed away while playing the sport. Darren Randall, who was 32 years old and a former first-class player in South Africa, was killed after being struck on the side of the head during a Border Cricket Board Premier League match in the Eastern Cape last year. In the same year, Pakistan's Zulfar Bhatti was struck in the chest while batting during a domestic game. In 2012, Richard Beaumont from England collapsed on the field after suffering a suspected heart attack and was declared dead after his arrival to hospital. And in 2006, Wasim died of a heart attack when playing for Surrey over 50s in Buckinghamshire. Moving on to rugby now, 12 African nations lock horns in the CAR Sevens Rugby Championship in Zimbabwe's capital, Harare, this weekend. South Africa Academy and Kenya, the two IRB core teams, are the favorites for the tournament.
Captains of the 12 teams got together Friday to plant trees at a ceremony ahead of the tournament. The fraternal love, though, will probably end there. Over the next 2 days, the teams will be battling it out for honors in the prestigious tournament. Host nation Zimbabwe are expected to benefit from the home support, but it could also up the tension.
There is pressure, but pressure is good. It brings out the best of us.
Namibia, a powerhouse on the continent in the 15-man format, is also hoping to use the tournament as a springboard for its sevens team that hasn't enjoyed the same success.
It's been difficult coming up with the sevens, like getting funds to sponsor or sponsors to sponsor it and getting tournaments behind us. That's the main reason. But from this point of from this tournament, we just gonna take the step up.
Another team hoping to put in a strong showing as it bids to get onto the IRB 7th circuit next year is Uganda. The East African nation is banking on experience gained playing at the Commonwealth Games and Safari Sevens earlier this year.
In Africa, we are considered a higher rank than most of the teams here. However much, I'm not saying they're weaker side, but I think it's going to be a very great tournament for us going forward.
Now that the niceties are out of the way, the teams are going through their final paces, preparing for what is expected to be a battle royal commencing tomorrow. Farai Mwakutuya, CCTV, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Well, staying with that story, Kenya will be out to defend their Confederation of Rugby trophy this weekend. The team will feature players with World Series experience, making the East African side favorites. But as Celestine Karone reports, the coaching staff says development is their key objective in the competition.
Getting ready for battle. Kenya's team to the 2014 African Rugby Sevens tournament trained with the World Series bound team early this week before heading to Zimbabwe. Kenya will be defending the title they won last year, but the team refuses to answer to the favourites tag in this year's edition.
But I mean, it's going to be difficult because for teams like Zimbabwe, Uganda, and for Namibia, for them, the team that finished the highest will stand a chance, to qualify for the series next year in Hong Kong.
The 2015 CAR Sevens will be used as an Olympic qualifier, and for Kenya, this year's edition marks the first step towards ensuring that they have more players exposed in the game in order to make the target of reaching Rio in 2016.
We want to keep building our system. We want to use it as a feeder system. We want to keep exposing the players to international standards and also to our team culture. Most of those players have been training with us, since before the series started. And I think, we want to see how they progress, how they do.
Development in the Sevens arena, however, isn't limited to just the players. Former Kenya Sevens captain Gibson Weru will be in charge of the team, making the CAR Sevens tournament his first major one as coach.
Sevens is our biggest brand, and Paul has a program that we're running that we intend to mentor coaches. Right now we're working with Gibson Weru. We're also working with Dennis Mwanza. They're learning the ropes. We have both are ex-Sevens players. The formula is simple. We're bringing back the guys that have stuck with Sevens, the guys who understand where we're coming from, and blending and building a management team.
Kenya's main Rugby Sevens team is in a rebuilding phase, and so for the players in Zimbabwe, they will be hoping to put up a good show as they eye places in future World Series teams and even the Rio 2016 Games should Kenya qualify. Celestine Karone, CCTV in Nairobi.
Let's go to a quick break here on Match Point, but don't go anywhere. Here's what's coming up when we come back.
Can be done. We as South Africans, we just got to support the boys and believe in them.
Former Bafana captain optimistic of AFCON success.
big dog right there.
Welcome back to Matchpoint. Now, the Africa Cup of Nations is almost upon us, and South Africa's 2010 World Cup captain Aaron Mokoena believes the Bafana have a real chance of winning the competition. Mokoena has been impressed with the way South Africa qualified for the tournament and is giving much of the credit to coach Ephraim Shakes Mashaba.
He led South Africa into the 2010 FIFA World Cup. But these days, Aaron Mokoena is more at home on a golf course. The former Blackburn and Portsmouth defender still keeps a close eye on South African football. And he's been delighted with the way Bafana has bounced back to qualify for AFCON 2015.
It's been unbelievable. You know, it's been tough. Of course, I mean, it's been doubts to the technical staff whether he's going to turn the corner. It's still going to be difficult. We don't have to be too excited about it. Yes, let's enjoy now. Let's celebrate because of we qualified. But we still have a mountain to climb, Cup of Nations in the toughest country in Africa.
Mokoena himself played under the current coach, Ephraim Shakes Mashaba, at under-20 level. And he has no doubt the turnaround in Bafana's fortunes can be attributed to the veteran coach.
Shakes is a man manager. What he normally does, he makes sure that you understand that you have responsibilities. Once you wear that national colors, what's your responsibilities? That's the message that he's trying to send to the players. I mean, these players, to Shakes, they are his kids. He wants to make sure that they understand that they have responsibilities.
Mokoena, like the rest of the country, is now hoping that Mashaba can bring further success for Bafana at the Africa Cup of Nations. But he's warning the supporters not to get too carried away and to have unrealistic expectations.
Cup of Nations is a totally different ball game. It's away from home, less support, less South Africans over there. Every country want to beat South Africa. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But with the motivation that I see from the technical staff, it can be done. Can be done. We as South Africans, we just got to support the boys and believe in them.
Despite the national team's recent improvement, Mokoena has a word of caution. He believes much more must be done at grassroots level if the country is to enjoy prolonged success.
Development, that's where we need to spend more money. We need to get right coaches, qualified coaches, more coaches to coach kids to be able to close that gap. That gap, if we really don't put attention in that gap, it's gonna affect us in the future. But we need to see more younger ones, making their names in the national team. But they need to be ready at right time, which I think 17, 18, you got to be ready to play for the national team.
Mokoena is currently taking some time away from the game and is focusing on his own foundation. And on this evidence, some practice to his golf game would not go amiss. Dan Williams, CCTV, Sun City, South Africa.
Right now, for more on the Africa Cup of Nations and specifically the brand new ball, which is here in studio with us. We're joined live in studio as well by CCTV's Celestine Karane. Celeste, thanks for joining us. We now know what Marhaba means. That's the name of the official ball for the tournament. But what's unique about this edition?
Well, I think first off, looking at the colors, they've moved away from the yellow base. Remember Katlego in 2013, the 2013 AFCON ball had a yellow base. So you're seeing the gold and the blue, according to the manufacturers, Adidas and CAF, they say they designed this together. The blue and the gold represents Africa's landscape from the Sahara Desert, to the blue skies. So that is what they say. And as far as the technology goes, we are told this ball incorporates the same technology for the bladder and the carcass that was used in the Brazuca. Now, for everybody who watched the World Cup, Brazuca was that ball that was on the pitch. So for the Brazuca as well as the the UEFA Champions League official ball. Now, the one thing, of course, fans will be hoping is that Marhaba can inspire the goals, because
there were plenty.
Katleho, 69 goals,
right.
2013 ball, 69 goals, averaging 2 goals per match. So what fans will be hoping for, and the players as well, is that Marhaba can welcome many goals come 2015.
And can move very easily in the air, hopefully.
Definitely. Adidas are saying they have done all the tests.
That's some long-range goals we can expect. Now, we see the ball, obviously, but do we know if Equatorial Guinea will be ready as hosts, last-minute hosts for the tournament this time around?
Mahia, let's face it, there will be problems. Even CAF have admitted there will be problems in Equatorial Guinea 2015. The question is, how big or what kind of effect will these problems have? CAF president has been published saying that hosting a tournament in 2 months, you've said Equatorial Guinea were last-minute replacements for Morocco, who wanted the dates changed. So he has said 2 months is not enough to put together a 16-team competition.
Right.
So their biggest concerns here is, one, transport and accommodation. We are even told one of the host cities only has 1 hotel, which has 54 rooms. Mahia, this is a 16-team tournament. We expect that of the 4 venues, each venue could host at least 1 group.
Right.
So I think for CAF, that is their biggest worry. And teams as well as players, coaches have also expressed, as they prepare for the competition, they have expressed concern that this competition could offer logistical challenges for them. But I think the thing here is CAF is trying to limit the damage. I think that is what will be key for them here.
Right.
Yes.
And we've talked just about the players and coaches, but that's not accounting for the fans
of course,
who will be coming and flooding into Equatorial. And media as well will
yes.
be there, hopefully.
Yes.
Thank you, Celestine Karane, joining us live in studio, talking about the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations and the ball that will feature on the pitch in Equatorial Guinea. Moving on, the future of Egyptian football is in jeopardy. The national team, the Pharaohs, as well as the country's youth teams, have stumbled in a good number of championship qualifiers this year. Football fans have been disappointed by the poor run of form, and analysts are now calling for immediate reform to save the country's reputation.
They were once a dream team, winning Africa's Cup for 3 consecutive years from 2006 to 2010. The Pharaohs' chance to qualify for the AFCON Cup this year was far-fetched, yet their failure shocked the country.
After the Pharaohs failed to qualify for the 3rd consecutive time, both the under-20 and the under-17 teams did not make it to their African championships. And many are worried that the Pharaohs might not regain their all-time glory anytime soon.
So in 2015, Egypt will not be participating in any African championship for all of its age groups. Experts say that's by far the worst age for Egyptian football.
There
is no doubt the Egyptian football is going through a big crisis. It started with the national team and reached the youth. It's the first time in history that we lose 4 consecutive games in the AFCON qualifications, and the first time in history to disqualify 3 consecutive times.
All eyes now are on the Football Federation, which, to dodge public fury, has acted surprised by the AFCON qualifications. It sacked the team's management after the results and promised to bring in more talent. Analysts are holding the federation responsible for the deteriorations in Egyptian football, blaming it of corruption.
The
glory of Egypt came after a precise plan was formulated by the Egyptian Football Federation in 2001. They made sure to invest in talents of all age groups. Now, the new federation has been abusing the fruits of these plans without planting new seeds for the future. Back then, corruption would mean if there are 2 great football minds, they'd get their friends to lead the teams. Today, they'd get their friends to key positions, even if they are the worst choices.
The Pharaohs used to be the 9th strongest team in the world after their 2010 AFCON title. With the latest defeats in the AFCON qualifications, the Pharaohs have dropped from the 38th to the 60th place in the FIFA's international ranking. If it remains so, Egypt will face more challenges in future qualifications. it will be considered among the lower category teams and will be put in groups with at least 2 teams of higher categories. Adel Mahroui, CCTV, Cairo.
Côte d'Ivoire's Sewe Sport Football Club have been preparing for their upcoming first leg of the Confederations Cup finals against Egyptian giants Al Ahly on Saturday. Having qualified for their first ever final, Sewe are looking to garner maximum points for a shot at clinching the title. Sewe Sport are the first club championship finalists from Côte d'Ivoire in the last 16 years and will be looking forward to writing their name in the history books if they beat the 8-time winners of the Elite Africa Champions League, Egyptian heavyweights Al Ahly, in Saturday's first leg. Now, these two teams have met twice before, with Al Ahly winning the first match while both settled for a draw in the second. The second leg of the finals will be played on the 6th of December in Cairo.
We played against them during the group stages. I think that's enough to know them. People had initially thought that our team was not strong enough because some players had left. Our opponents are a side to be taken seriously.
Well, time for another quick break here on Match Point, but coming right up. Former Congolese international keen on nurturing young talent. Welcome back. Now, there's plenty of rugby kicking off in the coming days. So for this week's Match Point Top 5, we're looking at the best ranked rugby teams in Africa. Of course, Africa is somewhat limited in numbers when it comes to the sevens game. So this is a list of the top 15 teams from the latest rankings posted on Monday. At number 5 is the only North African representatives in the top ranked sides. Morocco are 36th in the world. And kick off our countdown, Kenya is the 4th best team on the continent in the expanded game. Despite the country's 7th team reaching new heights, the 15s still have a ways to go to emulate their success. Zimbabwe are the 3rd ranked African team. The Sables have enjoyed a long history in the sport dating back to 1910 and are 26th in the world. Namibia are just 3 places ahead of Zimbabwe in the global rankings. Like most southern African sides, they enjoyed an early introduction to the sport on the continent and are 2nd best in Africa. It should therefore be no surprise who the best ranked team on the African continent in 15s rugby is. South Africa's Springboks not only top the list of African teams, but are also 2nd in the world rankings to top off our top 5 African rugby teams. Now, former Congolese international Jonas Bahambula is back on the field, but this time as a trainer. The winger from days past has been training youngsters in the country, and his efforts seem to be yielding fruits, albeit at a slower pace.
This is becoming a regular scene these days in Congo-Brazzaville. The youngsters would have previously been idling on the streets, but thanks to one Jonas Bahambula, more and more young people are now occupied with sports.
We are capable of molding players from a young age, and the results will be seen. That is why I'm currently working with my own means, and I believe the government will come in later.
The former Congolese player set up what he calls Street Football Academy in the capital. He intends to enhance the football skills of as many youngsters as possible and help elevate their lives.
They have taught me how to play the sport, how to provide cover, how to attack and how to defend. I have received good education compared to when I walked through the gates, and now I have greatly improved.
I want to be like Marcelo from Brazil. His quality of play is fantastic.
Jonas's motivation to train these youngsters came after watching the national team's fortunes slip while thousands of capable youth wasted their lives idling the days away. The future of football in Congo, though, looks promising. The Congo national football team, nicknamed the Red Devils,
recently booked their ticket to return to the Africa Cup of Nations finals after 14 years absence. Wazir Khamsin, CCTV.
Right, let's now check in on other stories making headlines in our Africa in 60 segment. South Africa's Springboks have made 5 changes to their starting lineup for their year-ending rugby test against Wales, which will see the return of World Player of the Year nominee Willie le Roux. The team has had to change their entire back three due to club engagements, meaning that le Roux and wingers Cornel Hendricks and Lwazi Mvovo feature. It will be a fight for pride for the Bafana Bafana, who will be hoping to win the Nelson Mandela Challenge Trophy when they host Cote d'Ivoire on Sunday. The two teams go head-to-head at the Mbombela Stadium. The match is a replay of sorts of the 2011 Challenge, where the two sides played out a 1-1 draw at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. South Africa coach Ephraim Shakes Mashaba will be without a number of players because the match does not fall within the FIFA calendar. And finally, police in Uganda are investigating claims that there was match fixing involved in some of the Cranes 2015 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying matches. Uganda FA President Moses Magogo said that the matter was handed over to the police for investigation following a public outcry. The country's federation received reports of fans attacking players for fixing the match against Guinea, which they lost 2-0. Well, that's it for this edition of Matchpoint. Remember, you can send your feedback to matchpoint at cctv.com. You can also visit our Facebook page, CCTV Africa, or stay in touch on Twitter using the handle at CCTV News Africa. Thanks for watching. I'm Mahe Mutwa from myself and the whole team here, as well as the official match ball for the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations. Thanks for watching.